night, listener. Tonight, we enter the shadows. Rain brushes against the window like fingers testing the glass for weakness. Outside, the streetlights flicker, casting fractured halos onto the wet asphalt. You watch from your fourth-floor apartment, breath fogging the pain. Every surface glows dimly gold, but none of it feels warm. Somewhere out there, the truth just died, and the city applauded. The courthouse lights cut off like a guillotine as the doors close behind the last of the press. He's been found guilty. Headlines are already calling it justice. You should feel relief. Instead, you feel watched. Across the street, past the rusted fire escapes and boarded pharmacy, an alley sits like a swallowed breath, dark, quiet, patient. A figure stands just within its mouth, unmoving. You blink, they're gone. Or maybe they were never there. That's the thing about the night, it gives shape to things that might not exist. But sometimes they do. If this story found you, maybe it's because you've been followed too. You close the curtain, slowly, like you're trying not to disturb something bigger than you. Your fingers hesitate at the cord. It feels like a test if you leave the curtain open. Do you invite it? If you close it, do you accept it's already here? You reach for the envelope on your desk, the one that wasn't there yesterday. Thick parchment. No return address, only your name, written in blocky, smudged ink, like it was scribbled in haste or by a trembling hand. You tear it open, breath caught in your throat. Inside is a single piece of paper, folded once. It smells faintly of ash and rain. No greeting, no explanation, just one sentence. You buried the wrong man. The bottom is signed with a single letter. You drop the letter. Your heart thunders, not from fear, but from recognition. You know that handwriting. So, before we vanish into this mystery, like the video and subscribe only if you can handle the truth buried beneath the lies. Comment your location and tell me, are you drawn more to the truth, the thrill, or the justice? Now lock your doors, take a deep breath, and follow me into the dark. You sit at your desk, the paper like ice beneath your fingers. The city beyond your window crackles with neon and sirens, but your focus narrows to that single line. You buried the wrong man. You were there the night they pulled the body from the canal. You testified. You said what they needed to hear. The timelines matched. The evidence was clean, or so you thought. The letter says otherwise. You shuffle through your desk drawer, pulling out a folder, press clippings, court documents, a photo of the man convicted, Malcolm Ray. Expression blank. The last time you saw him was in court. He didn't flinch when the verdict came down, just stared at you, right at you, as if he knew something you didn't. You hadn't thought about that until now. The letter crackles again as you unfold it, looking for any hint and indentation, a watermark, a fingerprint. Nothing, just that chilling, clipped signature M. A memory stirs, a basement, cigarette smoke, the smell of damp wood and blood. You shake it off. You glance toward the hallway. The coat rack casts a tall, unnatural shadow. You listen. No footsteps, no breathing, but you still feel it pressure in your chest like someone else is in the room, watching, waiting. You hear it again, scraping, not outside, inside the walls. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You grab the fire poker. Your hand trembles, but not from the weight. You take slow steps to the wall, place your ear against it. Nothing. Then a soft tap. You stumble back. Not a rat, not pipes. A pattern. Morse code. You fumble for your phone. Record it. 1 long tap, 2 short, pause, repeat. You search it. Your breath catches as the translation appears. I saw what you did. The rain outside picks up, tapping at the windows like knuckles demanding entry. Your reflection in the window looks different now. Older, tired. Guilt does that. Or maybe it's not guilt. It's not. Maybe it's the weight of knowing the truth when it's already too late to tell it. You check the time. 2:17. On the desk, the letter lies face up. You buried the wrong man, and someone wants you to remember that. You look back across the street. The alley is empty again, but you know it won't stay that way. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. You stare at the letter long after the words have stopped meaning anything. You buried the wrong man. They echo until they don't sound like words anymore. Just noise wearing a mask of truth. The envelope has weight, not from its contents, but from its implications. You grab your coat, slipping it on with practiced motion, your fingers brushing past something in the inside pocket. You freeze. It's a key. Brass. Cold. You don't remember putting it there. There's a small tag attached with peeling tape. Box Midtown Lockers. You trace the numbers with your thumb. Heart pounding. This wasn't there yesterday. You didn't leave the house today, but someone clearly did. As you slide the letter into your coat and grab the key, something flickers on your phone screen. A voicemail, time-stamped earlier tonight. You press play, holding it to your ear. Static fills the silence. Then a distorted voice crackles through. Shouldn't have lied. A breath. He's not the one. The line cuts. Your hand tightens around the phone until your knuckles turn pale. You step outside into the sharp bite of the midnight air. The city buzzes with the dull hum of neon and unresolved guilt. Midtown's not far. A 10-minute walk. Maybe 15 if the wind fights you, and tonight, it does. Each step echoes off buildings that have seen more than they'll ever say. The rain has slowed to a drizzle, enough to blur headlights and make the sidewalk slick like a polished truth. You pull your collar up, eyes scanning. Every passerby feels like a watcher, every car like a coffin. When you reach the lockers, the fluorescent bulb above the door flickers. The inside reeks of dust and abandonment. A lone camera ticks as it moves, following your entrance. Box 413 is near the back. You insert the key. The lock clicks with a hollow finality. The door creaks open. Inside a small, flat package, wrapped in brown paper. No writing. You unwrap it slowly, like disarming a memory. Inside is a cassette tape and a photograph. The tape is labeled only with one word: truth. The photo shows a crime scene, but not the one from court. Not the alley behind Bellman's bar where they claimed it happened. No, this is somewhere else. A rooftop. A body slumped against a vent. A trail of blood leading toward the edge. And standing just outside the frame, half caught in the corner, reflection of a broken window, is a figure. You, holding the same coat you're wearing now. You grip the photo tighter, trying to make sense of the angle, the lighting, the impossible timestamp written on the back. This was taken 3 days before the murder. You weren't even in the city then, were you? It was never about the truth. It was about control. You look at the tape again, the kind no one uses anymore. You'll need to find a player. You'll need to know what's on it. You pocket both items and turn to leave. But someone is already standing in the doorway, face obscured by shadow, not moving, just watching. Then, without a word, they turn and vanish into the hall. You sprint after them, boots hitting puddles, breath clouding the air. But when you turn the corner, there's no one, just silence and a faint, lingering trace of cigarette smoke. You return home, locking the door behind you, bolting every latch. You dig through your closet until you find it your father's old tape recorder. The thing hasn't worked in years, but tonight it burrs to life with the cassette's click, the hiss of magnetic tape, then a voice, low, controlled. Yours. If anyone finds this, it means I've made a mistake. I thought it was him. I was sure, but now I'm not. Now I think a click, then silence, then another voice. Not yours. It's always been about who tells the story first. And you, my friend, were late. Your skin prickles. You rewind, replay. It's your voice, but you have no memory of saying it. You stare at the recorder like it might confess something more. Then, from outside your apartment door, one knock, soft, deliberate, followed by a second. And then, silence. You don't move, don't breathe. You wait. 30 seconds, a minute. You open the door. There's nothing there. Just another envelope on the floor. No address, no signature. Inside a single black feather. And on the back of the same photograph, a new line has been written in red ink. You knew. Even then, you don't sleep. You sit in the dim light of your desk lamp. The photograph flat in front of you. The black feather laid across it like a warning. You run your fingers over the red ink, the words bleeding slightly into the grain of the paper. You knew, even then, but you didn't. At least, you think you didn't. You stare at the tape recorder, rewind the cassette, and hit play again. Your voice speaks from the void. If anyone finds this, it means I've made a mistake. You listen for inflection, emotion, doubt. It sounds like you, but something's off. The cadence is slower, words too careful, almost like a rehearsal or a performance. You play it again, focusing on the background. There's something there beneath the static, a click, a scrape, then a whisper, barely audible, almost like breath against the microphone. You isolate the last 5 seconds, crank the volume. The whisper returns. They're watching. You snap the tape off. Your hands are shaking. You knew this wasn't over, but now it feels like it's barely started. You pace. The floorboards creak in patterns you've never noticed before. Or maybe they're new, rearranged while you were out, because that's what paranoia does. It makes you a curator of your own surroundings. The photo sits at the edge of your desk. You stare at it again. That rooftop, that coat, that timestamp. There's only one place in the city with those twin vent towers in the background, the East Industrial District, near the shipping yards. And if that photo is real, someone's gone to great lengths to rewrite your memory. You grab your keys and your phone. It's past 3 a.m. now, but time has stopped meaning anything. You drive east, the streets thinning with every turn. Stores become warehouses, condos become shells. The sky above you is the color of old bruises. The building is still there, 5 stories tall, half the windows boarded up. You don't remember ever being here, but something about the entrance feels familiar. You park in the alley, grab your flashlight, and push through the rusted door. It groans like a voice that hasn't spoken in years. Inside, the air is thick with dust and cold with old secrets. You climb, floor by floor. The stairs sag under your weight, like they're remembering something heavy. When you reach the rooftop, the wind greets you like an accusation. The view matches the photo exactly. You walk to the vent where the body was slumped in the image. You crouch, shine your light along the base. There something catches the beam, a smear of dried blood, years old. And next to it, tucked into the crevice between bricks, a cassette tape, unlabeled, wrapped in a plastic bag. You hold it like it's something alive. You don't know how, but someone knew you'd come back here. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. You don't hear footsteps, but you feel them. Behind you, you spin around. Nothing. Then your phone buzzes in your pocket. Unknown number. A single text message. Stop remembering. You scan the rooftop. Then you hear something you weren't expecting. Your own voice. Again, but not from the recorder. From behind you. It echoes softly like a playback from a speaker hidden in the bricks. I buried the tape here. If I forget, it means they got to me. But if I'm hearing this, it means I'm already too late. You follow the sound to a small hole in the wall. A tiny recorder sits inside, covered in cobwebs. The voice keeps repeating. It's not about guilt. It's about what you see and pretend not to. You take it, pocket it. Your breath clouds in the cold air. You turn back to the edge of the roof, and there, on the opposite building, is someone watching you. A figure in a long coat, hands in pockets, no movement, no fear. You lift your flashlight to get a better look. The figure lifts something too, a camera. Flash, then darkness. You've been the suspect all along. You're back in your car before your brain catches up to what just happened. The image of the camera flash lingers in your vision like a retinal bruise. That figure on the opposite rooftop, still as glass. You never saw their face, but they saw everything. You drive with one hand, the other gripping the second cassette like it might dissolve if you let go. The streetlights blur into comets. Every red light feels like a trap. Every empty intersection, a stage. You make it home just before 5 a.m. The sun's not up, but the city hums with early risers and late sinners. You double bolt the door. Check the hallway. Empty. You pull out the cassette. The plastic is scratched. The tape inside looks warped with age or heat. Maybe both. You slide it into your father's old player. Press play. More static. Then music. Classical. Something dissonant. Shostakovich. Then the sound cuts out with a click. A woman's voice replaces it. Calm, unreadable. If you're listening, you found what you weren't supposed to. Congratulations. This isn't about Malcolm Ray. It never was. He just fit the suit. You freeze. The voice is familiar. Not someone you know, but someone you've heard. The photograph they never entered into evidence. Ask yourself why. Who took it? Who stood in the blind spot of the truth? You hit pause. Your chest tightens. You dig through the evidence folder again. The court records, exhibits, one by one. Then you find it. A log sheet of items submitted into evidence on the first day of trial. Numbered. Item 17. One photograph torn. Image incomplete. Withheld from jury. You look at the corresponding scan on your laptop, and there it is. The same photo. Except in this version, the entire right side has been crudely cropped, torn away. But the original version, the one in your hand, shows a shadow in the reflection of a broken window. A silhouette. It was you. Or someone who looks exactly like you. Coat, stance, posture. But in this one, there's someone else. The cropped piece, you flip it over. The red ink message has faded slightly, but the timestamp is still sharp. You compare it to the police's official timeline of the victim's last moments, and now it doesn't make sense. The body was found behind Bellman's bar, but the timestamp on the photograph is hours earlier on a rooftop across town, which means the body had to have been moved, which means someone tampered with the scene. And if the photo was cropped before it ever reached the jury, That means someone inside the justice system was in on it. It was never about the truth. It was about control. Your phone buzzes again. Unknown number. A single image. You, captured from above, on the rooftop, tonight, facing the camera. Beneath it, a caption. You looked right at me. Did you see me this time? You don't remember ever posing for that shot. You pace the room. You're breathing shallow now. The walls feel like they're pulsing in. The letter, the feather, the photo, the tapes. Each a breadcrumb laid by someone who wants you to find them, but not all at once. You return to the tape, rewind, play. They needed a clean ending. Malcolm gave them one. He even smiled for the camera. But you're a loose end that didn't stay buried. Another click. A different voice now. Male. Shaky. I tried to warn you. I thought the letter would be enough. They told me to shut up. But you were always the curious one. The tape whirs to a stop. You rewind it. Fast forward. Nothing else. Dead air. You sit back in your chair, pulse thumping against your neck. If Malcolm Ray was the wrong man, who was the right one? And more importantly, why are you in the photograph? You step into the bathroom, splash cold water on your face. You look up. Your reflection looks off, tired, older, maybe even afraid. Then you notice it. The mirror has a crack, hairline, but precise. You run your finger along it. A memory floods back. The day you got this mirror. You remember installing it. Brand new. No crack. That was 2 weeks ago. Which means someone has been inside. You wipe the steam from the glass. Stare at yourself. What if you've been the suspect all along? And for the first time, you don't have an answer. The mirror holds your stare a beat too long. You blink, it blinks back. Of course it doesn't, but that's what it feels like your own reflection is growing impatient, as if it knows more than you, and is silently daring you to catch up. You back away from the sink, heart in your throat. The apartment feels smaller, more confined, like the walls remember something you don't. You step into the hallway, needing air. Something about your place feels infected. Across the corridor, Mrs. Kessler's door creaks open a few inches. She's been your neighbor for 4 years, keeps to herself, lives alone, smells like menthol and antique regret. She speaks before you do. You're not sleeping again, she says, not as a question. No, you reply. Too many sounds. She nods, her eyes sharp behind thick glasses. That building across the street, she says. The one with the alley. Someone was standing there last night. I saw them from my kitchen. Your breath stills. What did they look like? Tall? Still? Didn't move for over an hour. I thought maybe it was a statue. But then the streetlight flickered and she trails off, the memory clamping her throat. And you ask, your voice barely audible. They looked up, straight at my window, like they knew I was watching. She shakes her head. I close the blinds. I know better than to look too long at things that don't belong. You ask her if she's ever seen them before. No, but they knew where to stand. She says, that's what scared me. It wasn't curiosity. It was choreography. Everyone lies, especially the quiet ones. You return to your apartment with a new pressure behind your eyes. You sit at your desk, flipping through the court file again. Something about the photo still pulls at you. You examine it closer, magnify the torn edge digitally, zooming in pixel by pixel. Then you see it, a watch, just barely visible on the wrist of the cropped figure, silver band, cracked face, the same watch you remember your father wearing. He died 12 years ago. You sit back, the breath catching in your chest, like a misfired engine. You dig into an old shoebox beneath your bed, photos from your childhood. One sticks out you on your 10th birthday. Cake in front of you. Your father behind, laughing. He's wearing the same watch. You flip the photo over. Your mother's neat handwriting, March 3rd. You check the timestamp on the rooftop photo. March 3rd. You whisper aloud, "That's impossible." The doorbell rings. Not a knock. A ring. You approach it slowly. Check the peephole. Nothing. You open the door. An envelope. Again. Inside. A Polaroid. Your door. From the outside. Taken seconds ago. There's writing on the back. You don't knock on a door you already live behind. A chill slices through your spine. You lock the door. Then drag a chair in front of it. Your instincts are fighting your logic now, and logic is losing. You grab the phone. Call the number that sent you the previous texts. Rings once. Click, then a voice. Same calm woman from the tape. "You're not supposed to call," she says. "Then stop sending me things." You snap. "I'm not the one sending them," she replies. "He is? Who's he?" The line crackles. "You'll see him again soon," she says. "And this time, maybe you'll actually look." Click. Silence. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You fling your phone across the room. It hits the wall, lands on the carpet, face up. The lock screen glows. A new notification. Incoming voicemail. Unknown caller. You hesitate, then play it. It's a recording. Old, warped, but it's unmistakably your voice. "I did it. I didn't mean to, but I saw what they were going to do. I had to act first. If they find this, tell them I was trying to stop it, not start it." The timestamp 2 years ago. You don't remember ever saying those words, but the voice is yours, exactly yours. You sink to the floor, everything shifting, sliding. Maybe it's not about what you forgot. Maybe it's about what you replaced. The missing memory, the photo, the cropped man, your father's watch. It's not adding up, but it's all connected. You just don't know how yet. But someone does, and they're not done with you. You sit in the dark, still clutching the voicemail like it's evidence that you haven't lost your mind completely. But every word from your own voice loops through your skull like a confession you don't remember making. "I had to act first." Act on what you rise, dizzy, pulling the blinds aside just enough to scan the street. There's a man standing near the crosswalk, still, facing your building. He's not moving, not even looking at his phone like a normal person would to seem invisible. He's just there, waiting. You close the blinds slowly. You were there when Malcolm Ray was sentenced. You remember the judge's voice cracking, the jury not making eye contact with anyone. You remember thinking, "It's done. It's finally over." But now you realize it started there. He didn't flinch at the sentence. You dig through your files again, this time for something very specific. The courthouse footage. There was a live stream, archived by the city. You queue up the final minutes of the trial. The moment the guilty verdict was read, Malcolm Ray sits perfectly still, face unreadable. You fast forward, rewind, over and over, watching the same 30 seconds until you catch it. A blink, not from Malcolm, but from someone behind him, a man in the second row, suited, crossed arms, no notes, no reactions. He watches the verdict, and just before the sentence is handed down, he smiles, just slightly, a twitch of approval. Then he stands and walks out. Alone, you zoom in, enhance the frame. There on his wrist, a silver watch. You freeze the image. It matches the one from the photo, the one that belonged to your father. But this man isn't your father. He can't be. Unless you've been wrong about what death really don't in this story. You go back through old obituaries. Your father died in a fire. No remains were ever conclusively identified. They buried a closed casket. You were told it was best not to look, and you didn't. You accepted the narrative like a good son, like a willing accomplice to convenience. But what if that fire was staged? What if the man in the courtroom was him? You scroll further through the courtroom footage. At the very end, Malcolm turns his head just slightly, looks at that man, then looks straight into the camera, into you, like he knows you'll be watching one day. It was never about the truth. It was about control. You pause the video. There's something strange about Malcolm's face. Not the expression, but the shape, the symmetry. You open the original booking photo. Compare the ears, the nose, the jawline. It's not the same man. The man convicted of murder wasn't Malcolm Ray. At least, not the one you remember. You go to your wall, begin tacking the photos up, the letters, the Polaroids. You draw red lines between them like you are building a map through your own mind. And somewhere in the center of it all is you. Your phone buzzes. Another voicemail? No number. You play it. Another voice. Male. Calm. You're getting warmer. But the fire doesn't just burn the guilty. Then the voice shifts. Glitches. They'll offer you the truth, but they'll make sure you regret taking it. You look at the board you've created. There's a photo still missing. You know it now. The photo you took that night, the one you've locked away in the back of your memory. Because it never made sense. Because it changed everything. You remember the flash, the rooftop, the blood, and someone standing beside you, saying, "We'll make it look clean." You remember now. You were there. Not just watching, helping. You've been the suspect all along. You don't hear the apartment door open, but you feel it. A presence. A shift in the air. That subtle pressure of being observed. You step into the living room. Slowly, the tape recorder is playing again, by itself. Your voice this time clear, undistorted. "I'm sorry. I didn't know they'd bury the wrong man. I just needed it to end." Another click. Then a new voice, female, sharp. "This isn't about endings. It's about loops." You turn toward the kitchen. There's an envelope on the floor. It wasn't there a second ago. You pick it up. Inside a photograph of you, standing over a body, holding the silver watch in your hand, and behind you, reflected in a window, the man from the courtroom, smiling. The photograph trembles in your hand, not from wind, not from cold, but from the recognition slicing through your mind like a dull knife finally turning sharp. There's no denying it now. That is you, standing over a body you can't name but somehow feel responsible for. The blood on your sleeve, the silver watch in your palm, and behind you, that reflection clean-shaven, eyes hollow, smile precise, the man from the courtroom, your father, or the ghost of who he used to be. If this photo is real, it means everything you believed died with him was a lie. You stumble to the desk and set the photo down carefully like it might detonate. Then you notice something odd. The watch. In every image you've seen the courtroom footage, the photo from your 10th birthday, even the grainy rooftop snapshot, there's a scratch across its face, near the 12. But in this photo, the watch is pristine, unblemished, new. And that can mean only one thing. There are two watches, which means two wearers, and one of them is trying to replace the other. You flip the photo over. For once, there's no note, no timestamp, no mocking message, just blank silence. And somehow, that's worse. You reach for the tape recorder, but it's gone. You search the room, under the desk, behind the couch. Nothing. You hear a floorboard creak, but not in your apartment. In Mrs. Kessler's. You press your ear to the wall. Another creak, a muffled voice. Then what sounds like humming. You grab your coat and step into the hallway. Her door is open. Barely. You knock. No response. You push gently. Her apartment is dark, except for the flicker of a single candle on the coffee table. And there, seated in her recliner, is Mrs. Kessler, staring at her television, which is playing static. You speak her name. She doesn't respond. You move closer and see she's holding something in her lap. It's your tape recorder. You kneel, carefully reach for it. She lets it go, then finally speaks. Her voice cracked like dry leaves. They always come back. She says, "Who?" She turns her head toward you, eyes wet and unfocused. "The ones we forget." You back away, recorder in hand, on your way out. She calls after you. "I saw you on the news." You freeze. "What?" She nods. "After the trial, before they locked it all away, they said you were the key witness. You testified that Malcolm Ray was the one you saw running from the scene, that you heard shouting, saw the blood, that the timeline fit, because at the time it did. But if you were wrong, if you were fed a version of truth you never thought to question, then the verdict wasn't justice. It was theater. You return to your apartment, lock the door, double-check every window. You place the recorder on the desk, hit play, day one, post-trial, your voice again. "They told me to lay low, that the past would bury itself. But I keep seeing the rooftop, the reflection. I think he knew I was there." A long pause. "They offered me protection, said it was safer not to ask, but I saw the photo they never showed in court." You fast forward. Click. Another segment begins. He smiled during the sentencing, like it was planned, like he wanted to be caught. Another voice breaks in sharper, clearer. "Your father, he was a placeholder, a distraction. The real story's still unfolding." Then a click, and nothing but static. You rewind, pause, freeze frame the audio, extract a screenshot of the waveform. There's a pattern in the spikes. You overlay it on your laptop. It matches Morse code. You decode it. Eastern Storage, Unit 12B, another location, another breadcrumb. You look at the photo again, the body, the watch, the reflection, and now you see it. The window the figure is reflected in. It's not a window, it's a mirror. And there's something else in it on the wall beside him. A phrase, scrawled in chalk. You only remember what they let you. You feel the walls close in, the letters, the photo, the tape, all pointing to one truth: someone rewrote the story. And you helped. You don't remember driving to Eastern Storage. You just remember the cold, the humming engine, the stretch of freeway that felt unfamiliar despite being a route you've taken before. The entrance to the facility is barely lit, its sign flickering overhead like a dying signal. The gates left open. No attendant, no security, just a soft, low hum, almost like a lullaby, sung out of tune. You find Unit 12B tucked between two rusted trailers, the metal door dented and streaked with what looks like old smoke damage. The padlock is already snapped open, hanging loose. Someone wants you here. You hesitate, then pull the latch. The door screeches open, and the smell hits you first: mildew, gasoline, something else underneath it all. Memory. Inside, lit by a single battery-powered lantern on a crate, are three objects. A television screen, powered by an old generator. A metal box sealed shut with a numeric code lock. A wall of photographs clipped to wires, hung like evidence in a courtroom no one will ever see. You step forward. The photos hit you like blows. Courtroom sketches, close-ups of Malcolm Ray, the rooftop, your apartment building, your father, and you. Some are years old, others taken days ago, even hours ago. There's one of you standing in your living room, holding the tape recorder. From tonight, someone has been close, closer than you knew. The generator buzzes. The TV flickers on by itself. A tape begins to play. The image is grainy black and white surveillance footage. The scene the night of the murder. It's not the alley. It's the rooftop. The body is there, slumped against the vent, and you're there, too, holding something. A crowbar. You stand over the body, panting, bleeding from the forehead. You drop the crowbar, kneel beside the figure. Then another man steps into frame. Tall, coat, gloved hands. He kneels beside you, places a hand on your shoulder. You look up at him. You say something. No sound. But he mouths words clearly enough to read, "This never happened." Then he smiled, and the tape ends. You knew, but pretended you didn't. You turn to the metal box. The lock blinks red, awaiting a code. You stare at it. Try the date of the trial. No good. You try your birthday. No good. Then, instinctively, you punch in 0303 March 3rd, the date on the photo, your 10th birthday. The fire. The lock blinks green, clicks open. Inside more photographs, but not just crime scene photos. These are personal. Photos of you at school, at your mother's funeral, at your old job, in line at a coffee shop. Some from behind, some from across the street. You didn't take any of them. You didn't know they were being taken. And in the corner of every one of them is the same man, shadowed, partially obscured, but unmistakable. Your father, a presence you buried 12 years ago, or thought you did. At the bottom of the box is a journal. No name, no dates, just handwritten entries, tight and mechanical. He still doesn't remember the first night. That's good. Trial went smoothly. Guilt rarely gets questioned when it's delivered with confidence. He's beginning to unravel. We might not need to intervene. If he finds the mirror, he'll know too much. Memory is a luxury we never promised him. You slam the journal shut. A breath caught in your chest like a loaded gun. You step back from the crate, unsure if your legs will hold. The images on the wall flutter slightly from the breeze leaking through the storage walls. Then you see it. A new photo, pinned in the dead center. You, right now, in this storage unit, lantern light, box open, head tilted in confusion, and beneath it, written in block letters, "Turn around." Your throat closes. You spin. No one's there. The lantern flickers. The TV buzzes to static. But something else moves, just out of sight. A shape, a shadow, a footstep that stops the breath in your lungs. You grab the journal, the photos, flee the unit, slam the door. You don't look back, because if you do, you're not sure what version of the past will be staring back. You drive, fast, blind. The night stretches ahead of you like a trap that's always been set. You don't know who you are anymore. You don't know what you've done. But you do know this. Someone wrote your story before you ever had a chance to live it. You don't remember stopping the car. You don't remember turning the engine off. But you're sitting in the driver's seat, parked outside your apartment, hands gripping the wheel like you're afraid it might vanish if you let go. The city is barely stirring. It's just past 5 a.m. The hour when everything is exhausted and nothing is safe. Your mind replays the words from the journal over and over. Memory is a luxury we never promised him. They didn't just manipulate the trial, they rewrote you. You carried the journal upstairs, every creak of the stairwell sounding like it could trigger a trap. You unlock your door. The lights are on. You didn't leave them that way. You step inside carefully, quietly. Nothing has moved, and yet everything feels different. You close the door, lock it, chain it, then draw the curtains tight. You place the journal on the kitchen table beside the photos and stare at it like it might suddenly grow teeth. There's a note tucked into the back cover you didn't notice before. You unfold it. One word, handwritten in all capitals, tomorrow. Beneath it, a time 3:17 p.m. and a place Raymond Park West Bench. You've never been there. You Google it. A quiet corner of the city, tree-lined, no cameras, no foot traffic. The perfect place for a message or an ambush. Your phone buzzes again. You almost throw it, but something in you says, look, a message. You're close, but not ready. Followed by a second. You don't remember the glove, do you? You freeze. The glove. That was the detail no one could explain in the trial. It was found at the scene. Blood-stained, leather, not the victim's, not Malcolm Ray's. It was the one thing that didn't belong. The prosecution buried it, called it irrelevant, claimed it was contaminated evidence. But you remember now. You touched it that night on the rooftop. You didn't report it. You didn't think it mattered, but it does, because the glove had a monogram on the inside. One letter, M, just like the signature on the first letter you received, just like the voice from the cassette tape. You search your closet, the back corner, a box you haven't opened in years, buried under old coats and denials. You pull it out, dig through it, and there it is, the glove. You kept it. You didn't even realize it, but your hands remember what your mind was told to forget. The leather is stiff now, cracked, but the monogram is still there, M. You slide it on. It still fits, and that terrifies you, because it means you were always part of this, not an observer, not a witness, a participant. You grab the photos, the journal, the glove, lay them out on the table like a puzzle where the pieces have been intentionally warped. Then you notice it. In one of the surveillance photos, one you hadn't studied yet, you're walking through a train station, head down, alone, but in the background, something catches your eye. A woman facing the camera, hair pulled back, black gloves, and a badge clipped to her coat. A court clerk. You zoom in, enhance. It's her, the woman from the cassette tape, the voice that keeps warning you, the one who said, you'll see him again soon. She was at the trial, embedded, and somehow she's still in your life. You trace her presence through everything now. The tapes, the messages, the voice that knew when to back away and when to whisper again. And she's pointing you somewhere. Raymond Park. Tomorrow, 3:17 p.m. You lean back. You can't trust your memories. You can't trust the trial. You can't even trust yourself. But there's one thing you do know. The man who was convicted didn't flinch when the sentence came down. He smiled because he knew something you didn't. Maybe he still does. And maybe, just maybe, you'll finally learn what that is tomorrow. You glance at the clock. 5:47 a.m. The sky outside starts to pale, but you don't feel dawn. You feel danger, and the unmistakable sense that the worst part of the story is the one you wrote yourself. You don't sleep. You sit at the table, surrounded by artifacts of a life you're no longer sure you lived. The glove, the journal, the surveillance photos. It's all there like a timeline written by someone else and signed with your name. The sun rises, but it doesn't bring warmth, only clarity. A harsh kind. The kind that doesn't illuminate so much as expose. You dress in layers, black gloves in your coat pocket. Not the monogrammed ones. You lock those in a drawer, as if isolating them might somehow contain the truth they carry. No breakfast, no phone calls. You bring only what matters: the journal, the photograph from the rooftop, the letter with the word tomorrow, and a question that's been clawing at your spine since this all began. If he wasn't the killer, what does that make you? At 3:05 p.m., you arrive at Raymond Park. It's empty, as expected. No children, no laughter, just wind brushing over benches and branches, the kind of place the city forgets once the budget runs out. You walk to the west bench. It's tucked under a canopy of half-dead trees, where the light breaks into stripes and no one can see your face clearly. You sit. At 3:17 exactly, she arrives, the woman from the cassette, hair pulled back, long coat, no badge this time, just a messenger bag and calm, unreadable eyes. She sits down beside you like your old colleagues meeting for coffee. She doesn't look at you, and you don't look at her. You just both face forward, watching shadows stretch across the sidewalk. She speaks first. You're further than we thought you'd get. You don't reply. I won't ask what you remember, she says. That's not the point anymore. You hold the journal out to her. She doesn't take it. Not mine, she says. It's yours. All of it is. Who's we, you ask? Finally, a soft laugh. People who protect stories, not the truth, just stories. You turn to her. Malcolm Ray was innocent. She shrugs. Not innocent, just useful. Useful for what? To keep someone else hidden. You feel the glove in your pocket like it's tightening around your ribs. He was a placeholder, you ask. No, she says. He was a volunteer. You blink. He wanted to take the fall. He was paid, she says, and dying anyway. He had convictions, just not the kind the court sentenced him for. The ground under your feet feels less solid now. You ask, why me? She looks at you. Finally, her eyes are darker than you remember. You were already compromised, she says. Memory fracture, trauma, guilt. We didn't have to break you, just bend. You feel the world turning in reverse. The rooftop, the body, the smile, the feather, the reflection. What did I do, you whisper. Her voice is soft. You did what they asked. You let them borrow your story for a cleaner version. I don't remember agreeing to that. No one ever does. She stands. Your father, you ask. Not my story to tell, she says. Is he alive? She pauses. Then, carefully, he is available. What does that mean? But she's already walking away. She stops 10 feet from the bench, turns. If you want the truth, she says, be ready to lose the rest. You call after her. Why now? Why tell me all this? She smiles faintly. Because you're the only one left who still cares. Then she vanishes down a side path. You sit in silence for a long time. The wind picks up. Leaves skitter like dry bones. And then you notice it, taped beneath the bench. A cassette, unlabeled. You peel it free. It smells faintly of smoke and something else like old libraries and sweat. You head home with it clenched in your fist. Later that night, in the quiet of your apartment, you slide it into the recorder. Press play. Your father's voice, clear, present. If you're hearing this, you've already chosen the red path. That means you're ready to see what I couldn't show you before. The glove wasn't mine. It was yours. You wore it. You held the weapon. And I cleaned it up after. You freeze. We made a deal. You asked me to erase the memory. You couldn't live with it, so I took the burden. I disappeared. But you were never innocent. You just wanted to be a long silence. Then truth doesn't heal. It reopens. You pause the tape. Outside your window, the street is quiet, but you know someone is there, watching, waiting for you to remember the rest. The tape stops, but its words keep echoing, bouncing off the walls of your apartment like they belong to the building itself. You asked me to erase the memory. You want to disbelieve it. You want to deny that voice, but it knows you too well. It speaks in rhythms your own thoughts follow. And worst of all, it knew what was coming next. You, the glove, the rooftop, not a witness, a participant. And he cleaned it up for you. You slump into the chair, cassette still warm from the player. You stare at the wall where you've tacked every photo, every scrap of this unraveling. They no longer feel like clues. They feel like accusations. What you thought was a mystery someone else constructed may have been your own design, a loop of denial, so airtight you buried yourself in it yourself. You take the glove from the drawer and place it on the table. Stare at it. One glove, one crime, one memory that refused to stay buried. Until now. But something's still missing. A beat you can't place. A silence in the music. You open the journal again, flip past the tight, mechanical entries, back to the last page. There, freshly added, written in your own handwriting. Go back to the church. You stare at it. You haven't been to St. Elmo's in years. Not since the fire. Not since the funeral that was missing a body. But now, somehow, the memory stirs. There was a door behind the choir loft, a small room, off limits. Your father used to disappear into it when the sermons ran long. He said it was a place for thinking. You always thought that meant smoking. You check the time, 11:04 p.m. If you go now, no one will be there. You're not sure if that's a comfort or a threat. You drive through a city that now feels like a map of errors, landmarks that were witnesses, streets that watched. You pass the courthouse, the alley, the storage unit pit, now locked again. You reach the church just before midnight. St. Elmo's is exactly as you left it, burned at the edges, rotting from the inside. The city gave up on it years ago, but someone's kept the door unlocked. You push inside. Dust swirls like memory. Your footsteps echo on cracked tile. You make your way to the choir loft. The door behind it is still there, still warped, still slightly ajar. Inside, it smells like smoke and cedar. There's a single chair, and on it, a Bible. You pick it up. It's heavy with more than faith. You flip through the pages, underlined passages, notes in the margins, and in the hollowed-out center, a cassette. Your hands tremble as you insert it into the recorder you brought from home. Your father's voice again. This was where you told me. You came here after the rooftop, covered in blood, panicking. You were shaking. You didn't say a word. You just held out the glove and said, "I need to forget." And I said, "Then let me remember for you." You paused the tape. You can almost see it now. Your knees against the floor, the glove in your hand, the lie at the back of your throat, and the warmth of his arms around you. Not out of love, out of duty. He took the truth so you wouldn't have to carry it. He erased you from your own story. You hit play again. I thought I was protecting you. I thought burying the truth meant freeing you, but you were never really free. Were you? You just became a new kind of prisoner. A long silence. Then, if you want the rest, look beneath the altar. You make your way down into the sanctuary. The altar is crumbling, split at the seams, but there's a loose tile near the base. You pry it open. Inside a shoebox, you lift the lid. Inside, a silver watch, cracked but ticking. A Polaroid of the rooftop, the full version, no crops, no shadows. And a letter? You unfold it. If you're reading this, I'm already gone. Maybe not dead, but gone in the way that fathers sometimes go into the shadows to protect their sons from what they've done. You asked me to carry the weight. I did, but you should know there was another. Someone else was on that rooftop. You dropped the letter. Someone else. You dig through the box beneath the watch, beneath the photo. There's another photo of 3 people on the rooftop. You, your father, and someone in the background, back turned, walking away. Someone who never made it into the trial, never spoke, never testified. Someone who vanished without a trace. The real killer. The third figure stares back at you faceless, blurry, mid-stride toward the stairwell exit of the rooftop. The photo quality is degraded, overexposed on the edges, but the presence is unmistakable. Someone else was there. Someone who walked away while you collapsed, blood slicked and broken, into your father's arms, while Malcolm Ray stood in a courtroom and took the blame. While the city celebrated a conviction they could print on paper and file away neatly, you were never alone up there. And now everything hinges on who that third person was. You look closer. The figure wears a long coat, hands gloved, posture confident, unhurried. The timestamp is the same, March 3rd, 10 Shoru P. Shalman M. The very moment the victim's estimated time of death was recorded. You run your fingers along the edge of the photo, where the ink has started to crack. There's handwriting on the back. They said you wouldn't remember him. They were almost right. Almost. You grab the photo and rush back to the box. Inside the Bible, between Psalms and Proverbs, you find something you missed before a slip of folded tracing paper. It's a crude sketch, a face, jagged lines, wide eyes, no mouth, and underneath it, watch the tape again. You know which tape, the courtroom footage. Oh, you drive home as fast as your guilt will allow. Once inside, you rewatch the live stream of the trial. Fast forward to the moment the verdict is read. Malcolm Ray, blank stare. The unknown man, 2 rows back with the silver watch. But this time, you watch wider. 5 seconds before the verdict, a man enters the courtroom and stands near the back wall, not in the seats, not by the doors, just standing, silent, and wearing a long coat. You zoom in, frame by frame. Same build, same coat, same posture as the figure in the rooftop photo. The face is blurry, deliberately. The camera loses focus for 5 seconds, anomalous, considering the entire proceeding was crystal clear. But someone made sure that this man wasn't fully seen. You rewind, pause, screenshot, and you see it on his coat collar. A pin, a symbol, a serpent wrapped around a gavel. You don't recognize it, but you know what it means. He was never just a bystander. You open the journal again, flipping to an entry you skimmed too quickly before. He showed up at the sentencing, slipped in during the verdict, watched with approval. It was his signature, the serpent and the gavel, the real author of the story. You dropped the journal. This isn't just about you. It never was. This is bigger. A controlled narrative, a planted conviction, a loop of memory designed not to conceal guilt, but to redirect it. They built the case around a body. They filled the gaps with you. and buried the truth behind the serpent's smile. You search for the symbol online, nothing public. But then, a hit on a secure database you weren't supposed to have access to anymore. An old badge scan from a sealed internal court security document. Private Counsel Oversight Division, unofficial, off-book. A legal ghost network built to sanitize unresolved justice events. In other words, the people who rewrite reality when the truth is inconvenient. Your father didn't just clean up a crime, he partnered with them. You stare at the glove, at the photo, at the watch, and then it hits you. The missing piece, the second glove, only one was found. Only one was shown in court. But the figure walking away in the rooftop photo, also gloved. You zoom in, right hand gloved, left hand empty. You check the glove in your possession, right hand fit. So whose was the left? You check your drawer again carefully, frantically, and there, at the very back of the box, crumpled in newspaper, a left-hand glove, leather, same stitching, no blood, but inside the lining, something sewn into the cuff, a name, or rather, 2 letters, G, D. You freeze. You remember that name. Gordon Dallas, Assistant District Attorney, lead prosecutor for Malcolm Ray's case. You pull up the trial's closing statements. Watch them again. His tone was confident, too confident, like someone narrating the final act of a play they'd written themselves. You cross-reference his record. Gordon Dallas retired after Malcolm's sentencing. No interviews, no book, no press, just vanished. You check his last known address. It's listed as Raymond Park, West Bench, P.O., Box 328. The same park you were led to, he was already there, watching, maybe not in person, but close enough to send a message. You sit back in your chair. The loop has closed, but the spiral continues. Your father erased your memory to protect you. The court used your testimony to protect themselves. And somewhere out there, the real killer is still watching, because justice was served, just not to the right person. You stare at the glove marked GD, long enough for the seconds to stretch into something shapeless, time smeared by disbelief. It's not a theory anymore. It's a structure, a hidden machine of guilt, gears greased with silence, built to run forever, as long as no one looked too close. And somehow, you were both inside it and part of it. The cog, the cover, the consequence. You pull out your phone, fingers cold against the screen. You try to call the courthouse clerk's office, disconnected. You try the DA's office, redirected. Then you try the number that's been texting you, the one that sent the rooftop image. You let it ring. For the first time, someone answers. A man, calm, smooth voice, younger than you expected. You shouldn't be using that glove. He says, "Who are you?" That depends. Who are you today? Your grip tightens. You were there, on the rooftop. You walked away. That's a strong word. Walked suggests I was running from something. You're the one who set it up. You framed Malcolm Ray? No. He says he framed himself. All I did was offer the narrative, and people took it. You included. There's a pause. You testified. He reminds you, I didn't remember, but you believed it. Isn't that the same thing? You don't respond. You kept the glove. He continues. You took it home. You hid it. That makes you part of it. I didn't know what I was doing. No one ever does. He says, that's why memory is so useful. It's the most flexible witness we have. He hangs up. You stand there in your apartment, surrounded by artifacts of your own deception. Everything feels like a test you didn't study for but still passed, because the grade was already written. You go to the mirror. The cracks gotten deeper. you didn't notice before. You study yourself, look beyond your face, and suddenly you remember something you've buried for over a decade. Not a rooftop, not the glove, something else, a voice, your father's voice. One day, they'll ask you if you remember. Just say no. That's how you survive this. He didn't mean the crime. He meant everything. You look back at the photo, 3 figures on the rooftop. You, your father, and Gordon Dallas. And yet, only 2 names ever made it into the trial records. Yours and Malcolm's. You return to the cassette player. You slide in the last unmarked tape found under the altar. Click. Silence. Then your voice. But it's different. You're younger, weaker. He didn't mean to fall. I didn't mean to push. We were fighting, and he slipped. A long pause. My dad helped me clean it up. Said it was an accident. Said no one needed to know. He said the man who saw us wouldn't talk. Said we'd be okay. Said the system would eat the wrong man before it ever swallowed one of its own. Click. The tape ends. And with it, the last illusion. You didn't commit a murder, but you helped bury the truth. You helped bury Malcolm Ray alive in a cell that didn't belong to him. And now the story has come full circle. You stare at the 2 gloves, one marked M, one marked G, D, opposite ends of the same lie. Then a knock, sharp, measured, 3 or quick taps, like a metronome tuned to dread. You move to the door slowly, no peephole, just presence. You open it. An envelope rests on the floor. You step into the hall. It's empty. Inside the envelope, a train ticket, one way, to a city you've never visited. A Polaroid of your apartment, taken from the fire escape moments ago, and a typed note. Time to stop remembering, start choosing. 1, testify. 2, disappear. 3, tell your story and live with the consequences. You look down the hallway again, still empty, but not silent. Somewhere behind the walls, the house is breathing, waiting, watching. You fold the letter and realize you're not choosing whether to be guilty. You're choosing what kind of guilty you're willing to become. You don't move for a long time. The hallway hums with invisible tension. The envelope flutters in your hand like a warning you were supposed to receive earlier, but maybe you weren't ready. Testify, disappear, tell your story. 3 choices, none of them clean, none of them safe. Back inside, the apartment feels like a tomb curated for your unraveling. The photos, the gloves, the journal, all relics of a version of you built by omission. You set the train ticket on the table. One way, departure time tomorrow, 2:09 m. You check the city listed on the bottom Oran's Point. You've never been. You Google it. Barely a dot on the map. Population unknown. No news articles. Just a single listing for a sanitarium, long shuttered. You don't even finish scrolling before you slam the laptop shut. You're not running. Not this time. You reach for the second option, testify. You could go to the authorities. Bring them the gloves, the tapes, the photo with all 3 figures on the rooftop. But then, what no judge is going to touch a case built on ghost evidence and erased memories, especially one that already gave them closure. Malcolm Ray is in prison, and as far as the system's concerned, he deserves to be. You just become the man, unraveling an already tied knot. To them, that's not justice. It's treason, which leaves option 3. Tell your story, risk everything, expose everyone. But what happens when the only proof you have is also proof that you lied, that you helped, that you buried a man to protect your own fragile sense of self? You open the journal again, flipping to a blank page. You write, I didn't kill him, but I didn't stop it either. I remembered too late, and now I live in the gap between truth and punishment. This isn't a confession, it's a reckoning. You pause, then write. There was a third man on the rooftop. He wore a coat, a pin, and a smile like a man who never gets caught. His initials were GD, but the initials don't matter. The initials always change. The pattern doesn't. You underline that sentence twice. You begin drafting your story like it's the only defense you'll ever get. You start at the fire, the erased memories, the glove in the closet. You leave out nothing, not even your father. You know what this means. If you go public, they'll erase you. Not just figuratively, literally. The same way they buried your father, the same way they folded Malcolm Ray into the footnotes. You flip the Polaroid over. There's writing on the back now. You swear it wasn't there before. You already testified. We just edited the rest. Your blood runs cold, because that makes sense. You always wondered why the prosecutor called you confused in court. Why your testimony was shorter than you'd prepared. Maybe they cut it. Maybe they manipulated the story in real time. Maybe the version of you they presented was the one they could control. You rise from your chair, look in the mirror again. The crack has deepened, and now it splits your face down the middle. Two halves of a self that don't speak to each other. You place your hand against the glass. You ask yourself aloud, what if I don't choose? The mirror doesn't answer, but your phone does. It buzzes. New text. No name. Then, we will. You spin. Nothing. But the weight in the room has changed. Someone has been here, or is still here. You check the windows, all closed, but one is unlocked. You didn't leave it that way. On the sill, a single feather, black, like the first one. You turn back to the table, the ticket, the gloves, the tapes. You pick up the recorder, press play, your voice again, soft, almost inaudible. If you're listening to this, it means I finally remembered everything. But memory's not freedom. It's just a different kind of prison. Click. Silence. You take the ticket. Burn it over the sink. You pick up the gloves. Wrap them in the rooftop photo. Slide them into an envelope. You mail it to yourself. Because if they're going to erase you, you want the truth to haunt someone, even if that someone is you. You sit at the desk, open a blank document, title it, The Man They Buried Wasn't the Killer, and you write, because if your story is going to end, it will be on your terms. You write through the night, through the static hum of neon outside your window, and the occasional pop of water in the radiator like a heartbeat trying to slow you down. Every line comes like an exorcism, not of guilt, but of ambiguity. You document everything, the rooftop, the gloves, the reflection in the glass, the voice on the tape, your father's whispered deal. You don't stylize it, don't fictionalize it, just facts. Because facts are now the only rebellion you have. By 4:27 a.m., your fingers ache. The sky has turned that ugly blue that only comes before a day that doesn't want to begin. You save the document. 3 backups, 1 to a drive, 1 to the cloud, 1 to a disposable email account. You label them all the same third man testimony, because that's what this has always been about. Not who did it, but who got away with it. You stand and stretch, your body resisting the motion. You feel older now, not in your bones, in your memory. You've been made to remember, and it's killing something inside you. There's a knock at the door, not a loud one, not timid either, just deliberate. You freeze, then check the peephole. Nothing. You open it slowly, an envelope, No return address. You bring it inside. Open it. Under the glow of your desk lamp. Inside, a photo. Blurry surveillance still of you at the mailbox earlier that night, sending the envelope with the gloves. A second photo. Your father sitting at a diner table, time stamped 6 hours ago. A folded note. He's alive. But only as long as you stay quiet. You feel your knees buckle. Not from shock, from the sheer weight of choice. You thought the hard part was remembering. You were wrong. The hard part is deciding what to do after you know. You open the second image again. Your father, alive. A man who disappeared to protect you, and who's now being used to control you. You pull the journal from the drawer and flip back to the page with the scribbled sketch. The face with no mouth, no name. You understand now. It wasn't a face, it was a symbol of a witness silenced, of you. You turn to a blank page and begin writing again. I was supposed to be erased. They left enough pieces to make me think I was choosing. But this was always the plan. Give me a trail. Let me follow it. And once I've seen too much, offer a leash. You underline that last line. Twice. You write, he's alive, but only because I know he's leverage. Which means I'm not the only one who remembers. You grab your burner phone. Text the number that sent the last photo. You still need me to stay silent. That's your weakness. No reply. Then, 3 dots. Then, careful. Witnesses die in accidents. Writers vanish slower. You take the threat. You write back. Good. That means the story still matters. You reach under the couch, where you taped a backup hard drive. Slide it into your coat pocket. You leave the apartment. No luggage. No photos. Just the truth. And the risk it carries. The street is quiet. Damp. Familiar in the way dreams sometimes are. You head toward the public library. One of the few places left with no cameras on every corner. You plug the drive into a forgotten machine in the corner. You upload the file. Multiple email blasts, encrypted shares, dark web forum threads, dead drops to journalist inboxes, all titled the same. He was found guilty, but the real killer watched in silence. And in the first line, this is not a story about a murder. This is a story about what a system is willing to bury and who they let dig the hole. You press send, and for the first time in weeks, you feel light. Not safe, not redeemed, but free. You walk outside. The sun is trying to rise, and for the first time, it doesn't feel like a threat. You hear footsteps behind you. You don't run. You smile, because now they have to follow your story. They don't kill you that morning. You thought they might. You walked through the early fog like a man who's written his own obituary and mailed it to the right inboxes. Every footstep behind you is a hypothesis. Every reflection in a window is a possible assassin. But nothing happens because they're not just watching now. They're reading. By noon, the ripples begin. First, a burner email pings your inbox. It's out. Too fast to stop. You check the news. Nothing yet. But the underground forums where real panic leaks first are already alive. Screenshots of your document are circulating under tags like Third Man Files, marked Ray case reopened, and hatched false witness doctrine. Someone reposts a passage from your confession. Justice doesn't fail by accident. It fails when the story is too clean to question. You didn't intend for it to become a tagline, but you understand now, truth spreads faster when it's poetic. You sit in a diner near the train station, watching from the corner booth. No cameras here, no reflections. You drink burnt coffee and watch the door. The world doesn't know you're here, but they do. Your phone vibrates again. New message. He's been moved. Out of the diner, somewhere quiet. Then if you want to see him, agree to stop writing. You don't respond. You look out the window and realize the street is too quiet. The waitress hasn't checked on you in over 20 minutes. The old man who'd been reading the paper when you arrived is gone. And so is the paper. This is a controlled space now. They're not waiting to kill you. They're waiting for your answer. You text back, "I'm not writing. I've already written." 1 minute passes, then another. Then a new message appears. Then here's what happens next. A photo. Your father, handcuffed to a metal chair, blindfolded, but alive. The timestamp is real. Minutes ago. You finish your coffee and walk into the bathroom. Lock the door. Pull out your burner laptop. Open the backup file. It's titled Insurance. You upload it to a remote archive. A dead switch. You set a 24-hour timer. If anything happens to you, if the email isn't stopped, the rest of the files release. Court transcripts, internal memos, unedited photos, voice print analysis of the tapes. Everything you weren't supposed to have, but kept anyway. You walk back into the diner. A new customer has taken the old man's booth. Slick hair, thin tie, newspaper. The serpent and gavel pin glints from his lapel. You sit across from him without asking. He lowers the paper slowly. Like in a movie he's already starred in. He smiles. "You've caused quite a mess," he says. "Not many get this far." You sip your coffee. You picked the wrong man to bury. "No," he says. "We picked the right one. But you had the wrong memory." You nod. "That's what I fixed." He leans in. "And now what? You think you've won? You think the truth changes anything?" "No," you say. "But it stains." He sighs. "You're not the first to resist, but I'm the first to finish the story." You reply. He looks genuinely disappointed. Not angry, just tired. "Where's my father?" He shrugs. "Safe, for now." You place your phone on the table. The countdown visible on screen. Do anything to him, and everyone sees the rest. He studies the screen. Tick, tick, tick. "You're bluffing," he says. "Maybe," you say. You want to find out. Another long pause. Then, "You're going to disappear." "I know. You're going to be discredited. I expect it. You're going to lose everything." You stare at him. "I already did. Now I'm just breaking even." He folds the paper, stands, and leaves a tip he didn't pay for. Before walking out, he pauses, looks back. "You were supposed to forget," he says. "That was your part." You nod. "I was also supposed to stay buried." "Guess we both failed." He leaves, and just like that, the diner returns to normal. The waitress reappears. The old man returns, this time holding a real paper. Time resumes, but not for you. You gather your things, walk outside. You know what comes next. They'll try to erase the leak, discredit the story, smear your name, turn you into the villain of your own confession. But it won't work, because you didn't write it for them. You wrote it for the ones who know what silence costs. And for the man still wearing a blindfold in a room no one else can find. You whisper into the cold wind, "I'm not done yet." Not even close. You don't go home. That apartment, its cracked mirror, feathered window sills, and redacted walls has done its part. It sheltered the lie long enough. Now it's time to live somewhere truth can breathe. You head underground. A rented room. Cash only. No Wi-Fi. No digital footprint. Just a mattress, a desk, and a lock with no spare key. The only thing you bring is the final photo, the one of your father. Bound and blindfolded, you pin it above the desk like a compass, a reminder, a reason. You wake at 3:00 a.m. to a thud outside the door. You wait. Then move. Envelope. Slipped under without sound. Inside another photo. You, taken moments ago. Sitting on this bed. In this room. Beneath it, a sticky note. Every witness has a shelf life. You almost laugh. Not because it's funny, because it's routine. This is how they try to wear you down. With reminders, with intimacy, with threats wrapped in familiarity. You tape the new photo beside your father's. 2 frames, 2 angles, same message they're always watching. You grab your burner and check the dead man's switch. Still ticking. 12 hours to release. You posted the first chapter, leaked the transcript, but the final piece, the unedited audio file of your courtroom testimony, the one they scrubbed that hasn't been released. Not yet. You want them to know it's coming. You want them to sweat. So you post one line to the forums. What's missing isn't the story. It's the silence between the sentences. You attach the waveform. No audio, just an image. It spikes in regular beats, silent beats, then one sudden, violent rupture. That's the moment they edited you out, and people see it. The thread explodes. Speculation, analysis, rage. Someone finds a timestamp from the court's official record that no longer matches the public file. A 5-second gap, small enough to explain, big enough to bury a life. They cut your testimony. Not just redacted it, cut it, spliced it out like a tumor. But now it's growing back. You receive a message on the secure forum from White Glove 031 to Nansemin subject. I remember. You're not alone. I was on the jury. We were told the clip was corrupted. I knew something was wrong. I still have my notes. A second message. Meet me at Midtown Station. Locker 209. Code 5152. 10 a.m. Don't be late. Don't bring your phone. You sit still, breathing shallow. This is the break you weren't supposed to get. Because now, there's corroboration. You pack light. Gloves, recorder, hard copy of the audio file, and one photo, the third man image from the rooftop, the blurry figure walking away. You arrive at the station early. Leave your phone in a mailbox on 6th and Fremont. Disposable burner in your sock. The station buzzes like a hive. Rush hour faces, coffee breath, forgotten children, dead eyes. You find locker 209, dial 51152. It opens with a click like the last clean moment of your life. Inside, a spiral notebook, a jury badge, a court-issued mini recorder. You grab all 3. No one stops you. You leave through the east exit in an alley. You flip through the notebook. Handwritten, 10 pages. Dated notes from the trial. Underlined passages. Juror 3 asked about the audio. Judge said, irrelevant. Strange. Defendant stared at witness. Witness didn't return it. Looked guilty. Closing statement 2. Rehearsed. Verdict unanimous. But something's off. At the bottom of the final page, I think we were watching a play. And I don't like the script. You hit play on the mini recorder. It's your voice, the original testimony. I saw the man run, but not Malcolm Ray. I don't think it was him. The build was wrong. The movement, something felt off. I was told the timeline matched, but I click. The file cuts, ends, clean. They used your hesitation against you. They weaponized your uncertainty. And now, you have the proof. You sit on a bench near the station exit. Breathe. Watch the city move past you. You post again. The cut in the audio is the admission of guilt. You attach the waveform, the jury notes, a transcribed clip. You don't wait for the replies. You don't need them. The story has its own inertia now. And for the first time, you feel like the noise might finally outlast the silence. By noon, your name is trending, but not the way you feared. Not as a suspect, not as a madman unraveling, as a whistleblower. Hatchandach third man. Testimony is no longer a fringe conspiracy tag. Journalists, real ones, start asking questions. One even uses the phrase buried justice in a televised panel. And for a moment, you feel the weight shift in your chest. You're not vindicated, but you're heard. You check the anonymous inbox tied to your uploads. 17 new messages, half are support, half are threats. You read every one because you need to know who's scared, and you find it hidden in a subject line that doesn't belong. Controlled collapse. Inside a single sentence. Isine, they're going to blame you for the truth. You don't reply, but the warning settles like smoke in your lungs. You walk, hood up, gloves on. Every face now holds a question. Did they read it? Did they believe it? At the corner bodega, you buy a burner. Sim and slide it into a forgotten phone. You call the number from the courthouse. Voice logs the one attached to the original redacted tape. It rings once, then again, then a voice, female, cool, familiar. You shouldn't be calling this number, she says. Then why hasn't it been disconnected? A pause. Because we knew you would. You lean against the graffiti-stained wall. Where is he? Another pause. Alive. Off-grid. He's not your story anymore. He's why I have a story. No, she says. He's why you almost lost it. You close your eyes. You're not protecting him. You say, you're protecting yourself, the organization, the whole dirty machine. You think this ends with your uploads, she asks, gently. You think people care who really did it? I don't care if they care. You say, I just want them to know. She chuckles softly. That's noble and naive. Where's Gordon Dallas, you ask? Now she's silent. Then gone. Gone where gone from us. Gone rogue. The man you're chasing isn't hiding. He's hunting. You feel the shift. It clicks into place. This was never about burying a mistake. This was about baiting one. Gordon Dallas didn't disappear to escape justice. He vanished to redefine it. You end the call. Burn the SIM. Leave it in a trash can near a construction site. Your mind races. He was in the courtroom. He was on the rooftop. He saw everything. And if he's no longer with them, then he's out there on his own, with motive, with knowledge, with a face no one has seen clearly in over a decade. You pull up the Polaroid again, the rooftop, the third man. You run it through an enhancement app, adjust contrast, refine shadows. Then you freeze. There, barely visible, under the collar of his coat. A tattoo, a Latin phrase, fiat silentium, let there be silence. You search it. It's a mantra, a creed used by extrajudicial operatives inside legacy intelligence branches, used specifically during cleanup operations. You run the tattoo through a database. One hit, a redacted personnel file. Gordon Dallas, affiliated with legal counterintelligence under a private judicial oversight wing known only as the Bench, the group that supposedly cleans stories. You were part of one, but you were never meant to survive it. You dig deeper. Court transcripts from a 2002 closed case, a double homicide, witness testimony redacted, names buried. But in the metadata, your father's initials. He'd been involved before. Not just in your case. This wasn't his first cleanup. This was his job. You close your laptop and feel the room twist around you. You weren't just protected. You were trained. You just didn't remember. Until now. Another text pings. Unknown number. A single message. He's coming to you. You stare at the words. There's no sender ID, no timestamp, just a digital whisper with no return address. Then a knock. Not loud, but not cautious either. You freeze. You walk to the door. Check the peephole. No one. You open it. A package, wrapped in butcher paper. No markings. You bring it inside. Open it carefully. Inside a flash drive. A single bullet. A note. One truth left. One shot to stop it. You don't know what's on the drive. Not yet. But you know what it means. The story is no longer about who was framed. It's about who's framing you next, and how many pages are left before they close the book for good. The flash drive is cold, almost damp. You hold it in your palm like it's alive, like it's pulsing with all the versions of the story they haven't released yet, the one they're about to blame you for. You insert it into your old air-gapped laptop. No folder, no file tree, just a single file. Witness voice, Brustache recall, MP4. You hesitate, then double-click. The video begins with static, then courtroom footage, but not from Malcolm Ray's trial. This is older. You recognize the defendant, a woman in her 30s, chain smoking even though it's clearly against court rules. She's smiling like she knows something the judge never will. And then you see him, Gordon Dallas, younger, clean-cut, beside her at the table. He's not her lawyer, he's her handler. You watch him whisper into her ear just before she pleads guilty. The camera angle is high, almost ceiling-mounted, unofficial, secret. The woman's smile vanishes after the whisper. She nods once, says the words, "I take full responsibility." End of tape. Then, your father, different courtroom, different trial, but the pattern repeats. The whisper, the plea, the nod. "I take full responsibility." It's not a statement. It's a code, a trigger phrase, like hypnosis, but deeper, hardwired. You rewind, study Dallas's movements. The words never audible, but you recognize the rhythm. He wasn't helping them hide. He was programming them to confess. Fiat silentium. Let there be silence. Let them speak your version of events. You sit back, pulse ricocheting through your chest like a countdown. The final piece doesn't just connect the system to the cover-up. It exposes the method. This isn't one case. It's a doctrine. And now, they need someone to pay for that. Someone the public has already started to trust. You. A new email appears in your burner inbox. Subject line, full circle. They can't bury it now, but they can still rewrite it. This is your last hour as a free man. Don't testify. Don't run. Don't speak again. Or we give the world what they expect. Another guilty man with a tragic backstory and a need for attention. Attached is a media kit, a smear campaign, already prepared, photos of you, taken out of context, old arrest records from a protest you barely remember, financial records, edited voice clips. They're going to frame you as unstable, as obsessive, as dangerous. They're going to make you the fourth man, the unreliable narrator of your own truth. You forward the smear kit to 3 trusted journalists, the ones who didn't blink when you first posted the waveform. Subject line, you wanted proof. Here's what they're afraid of. You know the timer on the dead man's switch is down to its final minutes. You haven't eaten in a day. You haven't slept in 2. But you're clear. You record a final video. You set the camera at eye level. No dramatics. No edits. You speak. My name is irrelevant. You've already decided who I am. They want you to believe I created this story to matter. that I imagined it all, that my guilt rewrote my memory. But I didn't write this story. I remembered it. And that's what scares them. If you see this, something happened to me. But that's not the tragedy. The tragedy is how many others they rewrote before me. How many were programmed to say, I take full responsibility, when they were just the nearest body. I've shown you everything. Do what you will with it. You end the video, encrypt it, upload it to the final Dropbox. As you finish, a new message flashes on screen. Unknown sender. Subject. He's here. You freeze. Outside your apartment, a car door slams. Then footsteps. Slow, unhurried, certain. You retrieve the bullet from the box. It's custom etched. Initials GD. You don't own a gun, but you don't need one. This was never a threat. It was a message. The only bullet left belongs to him. You slide it into your coat pocket, then walk toward the door. No fear, because the story is no longer yours to silence. You've passed it on, and now they have to answer to it. You open the door. Gordon Dallas stands there. Same coat, same smile. No words. You look him in the eye, and for the first time, you don't flinch. The hallway is silent. Not the kind of silence that soothes, it's the kind that waits. Gordon Dallas stands in the doorway like a man arriving late to a funeral he planned. His coat is darker than you remember, or maybe the light makes everything look like it's already fading. The smile on his face isn't warm, it isn't smug, it's surgical. He says your name, not your real one, the one they gave you during the trial, the one stamped on the court records. You don't correct him. You've caused a lot of confusion, he says. You let the silence answer for you. Do you know what we used to call people like you? He asks, stepping inside. We called you overcorrections, people who were supposed to forget, but remembered a little too well. You don't move. You don't breathe heavy. You watch him, like you're observing a ghost that finally decided to stop hiding. Was it worth it? He asks. You nod slowly. Every word. He walks to your desk, looks at the laptop, the photos on the wall, the cracked mirror still taped with duct strips. You shouldn't have remembered, he says again. There's no anger in his voice, just disappointment, like a parent whose child refused to follow the script. But I did. You reply, and now so will everyone else. He looks at the flash drive plugged into your laptop. What's on there? The rest. You say? The part you didn't write. Dallas sighs. You think truth changes anything. No, you say? But I think you do. I think you shape it so often. You started believing no one would notice. He leans in close. His breath smells like mint and control. You're not a whistleblower, he says. You're just a man trying to outrun guilt. You pull the bullet from your coat pocket, etched with his initials, G.D. He sees it, smirks. You don't have the weapon. He says, you are the weapon. You reply. He pauses. His eyes narrow slightly, just for a moment. That's how you know he wasn't ready for that line. I'm not here to kill you, he says. You believe him. Then why? Because the system you're attacking. He glances around, gestures at the photos, the drive, the evidence. It needs you. You blink. People don't care about truth, he says. They care about tension, about drama, about narrative. And now you're part of that machine. He walks to the window, looks out. They won't kill you, he says. They'll quote you. He turns, and then they'll forget you. You step closer. I won't let them. Then they'll turn you into a myth, he says. A sad one. He walks past you, opens the door. But before he leaves, He stops. Check the mail tomorrow, he says. One last tape. He leaves without sound. You watch him disappear down the hall, like a thought were being erased. You close the door, double lock it, sit down, and breathe. The next morning, there's a package in your mailbox, wrapped in brown paper. No return address. Inside a cassette. Handwritten label. Testimony. Doyle 01. The first one who remembered. You play it. A woman's voice. Crisp. Broken. I remembered. But no one believed me. Not then. Not after. Not even now. I was the first to see what they were doing. Replacing memories with directives. Creating witnesses instead of waiting for them. I told the truth. They rewrote me. You pause the tape and realize this goes back further than you thought. You weren't the beginning. You were just the latest. You sit down, open a new document. Title, The Ones Who Remembered. Because this isn't your story anymore. It never was. You're just the first one who told it all the way through. And now the silence is broken. For good. The story is over. Or at least the part you needed to hear has been told. But the silence that once covered this case, that blanket of doubt, manipulation, and blurred memory, it's still out there. In courtrooms, in basements, in minds too tired to question their own timelines. And maybe, after tonight, you look twice at the faces you trust, the stories you believe, the thoughts that feel a little too convenient. Maybe you'll wonder if forgetting was your decision at all. The city will move on. It always does. The streets will hum with the static of routine. People will sleep. Some will dream. Others will wake with the eerie feeling that something was lost long ago and never found. But you know better now because you followed every clue. You watched the lie unravel, thread by thread, until the only thing left was a mirror and a face inside it you couldn't look away from. That's the cost of remembering. Not answers, but clarity. And sometimes, clarity is the most dangerous truth of all. So now turn off the light. Close the door gently behind you. And if you hear a knock, wait. Because not every visitor is real, and not every voice is yours. End of script. Sleep well, and watch your back.